3, 2, 1.
Commence primary ignition.
This is the way. I can bring you in warm, or I can bring you in cold.
What is up, all of you Ugnaughts and Jawas out there, and welcome back to yet again another installment of Mando Talk. And this week we are putting the Mando in the Mando Talk. We got all kinds of Mandalorian, Mando type of verse things that we're going to be talking about. And you know, joining me as always is the new co-host. You've heard him before. He won a giveaway. Now he's become legendary. Now he's here. DJ Foster, Rebel Scum Texan, what is up?
What an honor to be called a legend. I didn't
You're
think
like
I
Luke
was
Skywalker, man. You're a legend.
I'm just a legend. Oh, I don't even know I got no words for that. Hey man, I'm just stoked to be back. I'm stoked to be here. I'm so glad that we are going to put, like you said, the Mando back in Mando Talk tonight. So I'm ready to get the ball rolling and talk some Star Wars.
Absolutely.
I mean, we had a great Tuesday with Geekverse reactions. So quick plug for our new segment show. What do you want to call it? Tuesdays, 8:30 p.m. Central Standard Time.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to be talking all kinds of Geekverse stuff. And if you haven't watched this last week's episode, go check it out.
Absolutely.
That was a lot of fun, good times.
Yeah, we had some fun sharing, you know, the things that we love in the Geekverse and all things really, and then recent kind of news. And I'll just leave it at that. But with that said, you know, there's a lot going on here now at Mando Talk. So if you have not subscribed, let me just mention this on the top. We are trying to get to 100 subscribers by the time that the Book of Boba Fett hits. That's going to be quicker. That's going to come sooner than we expect. It's going to be here before you know it. So help us get to that triple-digit subscriber number. Tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend. You know, word of mouth is still the real deal. So share a link, and we would really greatly appreciate it. But without further ado, let's get into this week's episode. And you know, barring last week's technical issues, we weren't able to discuss the Disney Gallery, the Mandalorian Making of Season 2 finale. But luckily, we are going to be able to do that this evening. And hopefully, you know, maybe we'll be able to have some good conversation with that because of this extended time, because of exactly what I just said. The amount of extended time maybe gave us some more time to visit it and to think about it and to kind of relish in that great moment that we got. But before we get there, we are going to mention just a couple of rumors / news pieces like we always do. We're not going to dive too deep into these because really there's not a whole lot there, although there is one big kind of news piece that we'll respectfully discuss in a second. But DJ, first of all, you got to update me about this thing that you threw in Discord. And again, there's a shameless plug. Discord link is in the description. Come have fun with us. Come talk Star Wars with us and talk anything with us. But you threw something in that Discord that hints at future Star Wars stuff coming to Disney+. What is that said future stuff coming to Disney+?
Well, you know, it was so out there. I feel like I checked out this Facebook group I'm in this morning, and there was this thing in there has Disney Plus at the top of it, and I did post it in our Discord, so you go check it out there. But it's all in Spanish for starters, and so I'm sitting there reading it, and I was like, I don't know what some of this is, and I got to looking closer. I was like, oh, some of it is in English. So like I didn't have to bust out Google Translate. You know, I'm not bilingual, so I can't do, you know, the conjugations very well and whatnot. That's the only word I remember from Spanish class, by the way, is conjugation. And it's not even Spanish. That's the sad part. But no, in here, there's a couple of Star Wars related things. Now at the top, it says that a Disney Plus original Star Wars Visions is dropping September 22nd. And of course, we knew that it was coming very soon. We knew it was coming during September. I don't recall ever seeing an official date. But September 22nd is on this.
Okay.
So
yeah, I think that date was on the trailer that we got.
Okay.
Maybe a few weeks back, but yeah, that definitely has me excited.
Yes, and me too. I mean, to be totally honest with you, the fact that we know it's coming as soon as it is, I think is really cool. And I've never really been an anime fan. Have you ever really been an anime fan?
No, I've always respected it, but it's never really
Yeah,
gotten like my full attention. But Visions
yeah.
has my full attention.
Yeah, I'm very excited for it as well. And then so we knew about that one. So that's not major. But the second thing that was on this list, it had a bunch of ancient X-Files and like some Nazi stuff, which I was like, I'm thinking that's a National Geographic thing that they're adding to it. But down here the bottom, the 29th of September, or I don't remember how to say numbers in Spanish, so I'm going to say 29 de septiembre. Star Wars Galaxy of Sounds, episodes 1 through 7. So we're getting a 7-part series, maybe multiple seasons coming down the pipe somewhere in the future. I mean, I don't know. I'm speculating on that one, but Star Wars Galaxy of Sounds. So Caleb Keller, when you hear Galaxy of Sounds, what triggers in your mind? What do you think that's about?
Well, for some reason, I'm going straight to, that biomes thing that we got a couple months back. Maybe it'll be something like that where we're just in one station, almost like, there's some YouTuber out there. I'll just give this shameless plug. I think it's Ambient Worlds or something like that. But what that YouTuber does is he makes just like this 3-hour track of for example, Lord of the Rings. He just plays a theme from that movie or one of the movies and sets you in that scene, and you just kind of sit there and kind of take it all in, and it feels like you're there. Maybe it could be like one of those situations where they put us on a planet, and it's just like a little ambient little figure that we see, and they play some music, and it makes us just feel like we're in Star Wars. That's just kind of where my head's at. I don't think there's going to be too much substance with it, other than just some like connection with that universe. That's just my thought on it without knowing anything about it.
No, and I hadn't considered that. I mean, tonight we're going to be talking about behind the scenes stuff, and I am a behind the scenes junkie. I think I've said that here before. But the idea of Galaxy of Sounds makes me think about Ben Burt, the mastermind behind all Star Wars sound effects for episodes really 1 through 6. And of course, we had Matthew Wood, who kind of took that place, and not took his place, but took on that role at Lucasfilm. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with Matthew Wood, he's the voice of all of the droids in Clone Wars and in a couple episodes of Rebels. And then also the voice of General Grievous. And we love ourselves some General Grievous around here. I mean, and Hot Topic just has now an exclusive General Grievous Funko Pop that I so desperately need to add to my collection.
There you
go. maybe one day we'll see. So I'm thinking it has something to do with Ben Burt and sound effects. I think that would be really interesting to watch. I love the idea of people recording sounds and adding them to movies, that art is called Foley. I think that art is so vital to film and to TV. So I would be really interested in that. Now I think you probably are more on the line of that, because I mean, how do you make a series about just watching people go? Like it doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
Maybe. So that's what I'm thinking it's about. So tell us what you think down in the comments on what you think Star Wars Galaxy of Sounds might be. But there was one other thing, very briefly. It looks like an animated show. In fact, I have no idea if it's coming to Disney Plus or if it's going to like Star Wars Kids' YouTube channel, but it's called Star Wars Galaxy of Creatures. And Galaxy of Creatures looks like it's going to be sort of a friendly little animated show that will focus on the various non-sentient species throughout the galaxy. For example, banthas, wampas, tauntauns, rancors, the reek, you go on, maybe even a mudhorn. I mean, just to come back to Mando. So, or even blurgs. There's a blurg actually here on the main image. So who knows? We may get something really interesting out of that. I think it'll be geared more towards a child audience, but at the very least, if and when this comes around, look forward to checking that out. So if you have any information further on that, feel free to hit us up at Mando Talk, and we will be willing to discuss it. So that's kind of where I just kind of randomly bumped into that this morning. I mean, I'm still waking up. My hair's all crazy. I hadn't even I hadn't even thought about lifting my head from the pillow. So, I mean, I have no idea really what's going on here, and I'm still a little disoriented if I'm being honest. So,
Yeah,
if you have any information further, please let us know.
absolutely.
So that's what I have on that. So I guess that's it for it. Yeah.
Okay, well, those were some just off the top things that I felt the need that we needed to hear because, like he said, I'm kind of I don't know anything about this. I found
Yeah.
out through the Discord, and we'll see. I don't think there won't be big substance on those things. It's probably like geared toward kids, just like a lot of things that we've seen before. It'll be cool to kind of get in the galaxy, like always, but just enjoy it. Just new Star Wars content. Let's have fun with it. But before we get to the Mandalorian, the Disney Gallery discussion, let's quickly update you as far as what's going on in the galaxy far, far away. And the first thing that I wanted to mention is just for some reason, I don't know if this is just me, but for some reason, Cad Bane has been everywhere on social media the past week. And I don't really even know where this rumor initially sparked, but the rumor of Cad Bane being in the Book of Boba Fett is heavily, heavily out there. So I just wanted to real quickly, first of all, obviously make you aware, the listener, that this rumor is out there, and then for us to speculate here for a moment and kind of talk about why or do we think that Cad Bane is actually going to show up in the Book of Boba Fett. And if I had to currently guess, I'm actually favoring that he will be in it. Especially with, Tamara Morrison talking about how we're going to be going back in time, visiting Boba Fett in different eras of the galaxy. I really do expect to see some of these big bounty hunter characters that we've come to know of in this show, and to explore those relationships and feuds a little bit more. And with that said, I think Cad Bane showing up in the Bad Batch made sense, but I also think it was calculated in the sense that, don't forget about this really cool character. You're fixing to see him in December when we release the Book of Boba Fett. You think I'm crazy, or are you kind of with me?
No, not at all. I think, we talked about this a little bit on Saturday when we had your fantasy football draft. I'm going to call that the fantasy football episode, even though that's not at all what we talked about really.
Sure.
But during that particular live stream, we did talk a little bit about what the Book of Boba Fett's story could hold as far as who could show up, what's going on, those kinds of things. And we mentioned Han Solo. What are the chances of him showing up? I think that Cad Bane showing up in the Book of Boba Fett is probably more likely than Han Solo showing up.
Definitely.
And
yes.
And that's for so many reasons. I mean, the fact that we don't have to potentially de-age Harrison Ford, which is not exactly cost effective. And that would require both animation and his time, which I don't really think he's looking to give more of his time to Star Wars. I think, because he's mostly focused on Indy 5 right now, which is fine. And I'm still, like we said on Tuesday, we're looking forward to that. But I really think that this is one of those things that it very easily could happen.
Yeah.
Dropping him in Bad Batch was, I think, a smart move for so many reasons. It's nostalgia ridden. It's a cool character. He's the bad guy outlaw. Like, in a lot of ways, he's a lot. And I don't mean, this is kind of maybe a hot take. I don't know. We'll call it a hot take.
Sure.
He's a lot cooler in a lot of ways than Boba Fett. And I say that specifically in the realm of animation and in the realm of the prequels. Mm-hmm. Post the prequels into episodes specifically 5 and 6, and now Mandalorian, Boba has steadily moved up that ladder of cool, I think, for a lot of people.
Sure.
And it certainly did for me, because I was like, he's in the Sarlacc pit. Maybe he got out, maybe he didn't. Well, now we know. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's a lot more likely that he'll be, a nice little face-off. The only thing I have a problem with on that is that we have that rough animation of young Boba going up against Cad Bane, and it was an unfinished Clone Wars episode. I kind of hoped we might get it in season 7, like a lot of people did, but it's okay that we didn't, because we have now Boba in the Book of Boba Fett, and of course, Mandalorian. So I honestly think, Cad Bane, he 100% could show up in the Yeah, in Book of Boba Fett. I want to make sure I said that right. I thought I got it backwards. But yeah, I think it's possible. Likelihood, I would like to hear your percentage. What do you think your percentage of him showing up would be?
Man, if it was as easy as just finding an actor and not having to worry about, like, the blue and maybe, the CGI on the character that would need to be done, I would honestly go 100%. But just the cost of, executing all of that, and it being the first time seeing the character in live action, that it would require a lot of work. Just because of that aspect, I'll go 65% that we see Cad Bane. I feel pretty confident. That's why I'm above 50, but I don't want to, just anchor down on him being there and then be thoroughly disappointed. So I want to sit at a healthy 65%. What about you?
That's the same number that came to mind for me. I mean, let's go. Let's go. Right on target, I feel like. And
stay on target.
65%. You stay on target. Man, if you only knew how many times a week I say that or hear someone say it, it's insane. But anyway, shout out to that guy. May he rest in peace. somewhere in the space near Yavin 4. But anyway, no, I think that it's a 65% is a good, healthy number. I wouldn't at this point go much higher than that.
Yeah.
And watch tomorrow. They're going to put something out that's like Cad Bane confirmed. We're all going to be like,
from Hollywood Reporter, like the most legit source is going to bring it out.
Yeah. And I believe my youngest brother, Brock, has hopped in the chat, and he says Cad Bane in the Book of Boba Fett will be dope. And I agree. It will be the dopest. So, yeah, that's where I'm at on Cad Bane. If you haven't already said something in the comments, drop down in there and tell us what you think about Cad Bane potentially showing up in the Book of Boba Fett.
Absolutely, man. It's coming close. It's coming. And, again, help us get to 100 subs by the time it hits.
Yes.
That way we can all freak out together when we see Cad Bane in the show.
Yes.
Now,
that's what we want. We want to freak out with you.
Yeah. Let's freak out together.
We want
to scream and shout and let it all out and freak out.
Oh, man. I love some classic. I don't even know. Was that 80s? I love some references.
I don't know.
It's fun time.
But anyway, I apologize there. The music just started flowing out of me there for a second. But regardless,
it is what it is.
The Book of Boba Fett, Cad Bane showing up would be pretty cool. Now, that is not the only thing that we had to mention about the Book of Boba Fett this evening. Now, this is like the big, huge news that's out as of today. Now, with that said, it does contain spoiler-heavy spoiler warnings with the show, The Book of Boba Fett. But I want to be 100% clear. We are not going to get into the spoilers because we want to, first of all, let that article by Star Wars Newsnet sit. We want all of the attention to go to those guys, and I don't think it's in the description right now of the live stream, but I will put the link to the article in the description after this live stream is over, and also in our podcast, so you can go check it out for yourself for those of you that are interested in reading these spoilers. But they are pretty big spoilers, so props to Star Wars Newsnet for this is 2 weeks in a row now. Last week they dropped a big one with Obi-Wan Kenobi, so go check that out if you haven't. And I think I actually did a video, or our podcast episode last week talked about that a little bit more, only because I was able to do it at the very end of the episode and kind of give my big spoiler warning with that. But being live, I didn't really want to do that to our live streamers or our audience, to just throw spoilers out there crazily. So again, if you have interest in seeing those spoilers, go check them out. I will, just give a non-spoiler take with it. I do think some stuff in there with this article is predictable. Like, it's some things that here at Mando Talk we've even said that we've predicted here on this show. But there is specifically one thing in there that kind of blows me away, and I'll just leave it at that. DJ, do you have anything else that you want to add to that, though, non-spoilery?
Not particularly, other than the thing. Like, I do want to mention that the guys and ladies who are over at Star Wars Newsnet, they do a heck of a job. And the writer of this one is a guy named Miguel Fernandez, and props to him for putting in the work and doing the research and finding however they get a hold of their information. Lord knows I have no idea. For all I know, it's Tinkerbell coming over there and just, I don't know, throwing out pixie dust, doing her thing. But it's one of those articles I feel like if you love to know things ahead of time, this is the article for you.
Yeah.
And I don't think I should say much more on it. Otherwise, I'll end up saying the wrong thing and making our live listeners a little upset.
Sure.
Or our podcast listeners a little upset. So for now, I'll leave it at that. Yeah, definitely. We'll put that down in the description. And I've already personally retweeted it on my Twitter account. So if you want to go check it out, plug for me at Rebel Scum Texan. You see that underneath my little screen here at the moment. So it's not like I am shamelessly plugging myself, but I am. So you go check that out over there, or just go to Star Wars Newsnet and check it out there as well.
Absolutely. Fair enough. Well, listen, that is the news, the rumors of the past week. So like we said, not a lot there, but really that spoiler thing, there's a lot there, but again, we don't want to dive too deep into it tonight. But with that said, we got all of those things out of the way, and we can now finally, 2 weeks later, almost, it feels like forever ago, we can finally discuss Disney Gallery, Star Wars, the making of Season 2 finale for The Mandalorian. And boy, oh boy, does this image right here not say it all. Luke Skywalker being back. Not only Luke Skywalker being back, but Mark Hamill being back in The Mandalorian is something that I never thought that I would say. And it was extremely beautiful to see how this was well put together in this Disney Gallery episode. And those are kind of just my, before we even dive too deep into it, takeaways. What did you overall think about this Disney Gallery episode, DJ?
So I want to back up to when he first showed up, before we had any behind the scenes for any of Season 2. Like many people, I think a lot of us collectively crapped our pants when we saw this. And I know I did. I was just blown away that, like, holy cow, Luke Skywalker. And it's like, of course it's Luke Skywalker, but like, even as they were giving these little hints throughout each shot, I was like, it's not Luke. It can't be Luke. Yep. And then one thing happened.
What's that?
This happened. They have the shot where he just holds it off to his side, and I was like, okay, that's Luke Skywalker. There's no way that's not Luke Skywalker, because this hilt.
Right.
You see this, and you're like, this is Luke Skywalker.
Yep.
And so I've had this sitting on my lap for 47 minutes now, waiting to just be like, here it is. But anyway, I had to have a moment.
Yeah.
I had to have a childlike moment after watching it. So what I did was I went to my closet and I turned a black hoodie inside out. And I have a Batman cape that I got years ago for something at church, and I've never gotten rid of it, because who knows when you're going to need a Batman cape, you know what I mean? Yeah. So they've got that. I put on my nice, like, going to a wedding dress black shoes, some black jeans, and I found a baseball batting glove. I don't even know how I had a baseball batting glove in my house. I haven't played baseball in years, but I slipped that on and I got out the lightsaber. Actually, it'd be his right hand, but I pretended like a child to be Luke Skywalker. I'm a grown man. And I went and did this most childish thing I could do in that moment. Thank God I was home alone.
Yeah.
Like, and thank God that my cat doesn't have a voice, because she would just be like, what are you doing, you loser? and honestly, I was being 100% a child, but like, that's what this did for me. It made me want to go back to being 7, 8 years old and be Luke Skywalker on Jabba's sail barge. And I really kind of did that for a minute. And that's what this did for me. So seeing how they brought that together and watching Mark Hamill show back up for this and going through the process and being willing to not only be Luke Skywalker, but to also voice another character in the cantina scene in Season 1, it meant the world to me as a fan. And I think we all, would say the same thing. So that's my general thoughts on that. So I'll let you take us into, what your thoughts are as far as breaking it down, or any
Sure.
other thoughts you might have.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let me just kind of structure how we'll do this. What I did was, as I was watching it, I just made note of kind of my big takeaways as I was watching. So what I'm going to do, and if you're on YouTube, you'll kind of see me look to the side as I'm looking at my bullet point list over here. I'm just going to go through these, and our conversation is just going to naturally flow as I bring some things up. So like I typically mention, DJ, when I mention a big takeaway of mine and you want to add something to it, please, by all means, add something to it. And the first big takeaway of mine as I was watching this thing was, I think it kicks off with Jon Favreau just kind of explaining how important all of this stuff is to him. And I know it's silly, it's simple of him to just make those couple of comments, but man, that is so important to me, that Favreau, Filoni, believe it or not, Kathleen Kennedy, all these people that are involved really do genuinely love this franchise, and they really are trying their best to deliver some content that is incredible. And man, oh man, did Favreau deliver with this season finale. And it's just very evident throughout this Disney Gallery thing. Favreau loves Star Wars. He is one of us, 1,000%.
I agree. I mean, hearing him talk about it, and honestly, hearing him talk throughout the whole thing was a lot like a breath of fresh air. And you mentioned Kathleen Kennedy, and so did Jon Favreau.
Yep.
Jon Favreau made sure to point out her willingness to really put something on the line that could have gone south. No one's really talked a whole lot about that. I feel like I haven't really seen a whole lot of people like, wow, I can't believe they pulled that off. It was like, whoa, they pulled that off. Like it was never anything in the negative. It was always something in the positive. And so hearing him talk about his respect for Kathleen Kennedy, I think is so important, and not just for filmmaking or even because that's his boss. I don't think he was sucking up at all.
Sure.
I genuinely think he appreciates her as a producer, as an executive, and as a leader, because she does lead Lucasfilm. And I do want to say this. I mean, I really believe that too many people give her flack for the sequel trilogy and things, because those are 3 movies. Before the Marvel Cinematic Universe, she was the most successful producer of all time.
Absolutely.
And those are numerical facts, and then Kevin Feige, comes in and takes that role from her, but that's not because of anything other than look at the MCU. It's massive.
Sure.
And and we talked about that also on Tuesday, how big of fans we are of it and all that. But we got to stop conveniently leaving out Kathleen Kennedy. And I say we collectively, I'm not talking about me and you. I'm
as
just
a
saying
fan
collective.
base.
As a fan base, we have to stop leaving out what she has done for cinema as a whole. And so hearing Favreau, like, I've got my boss's back.
Yeah.
Because for sure she has his back.
Yeah.
Not just because he just rolled in a wheelbarrow full of cash either. I mean,
that helps, but
it certainly helps. But I mean, I think we all have to understand that this is somebody who has done a great work in a lot of areas. So
Yeah.
that's my soapbox about Kathy Kennedy.
Okay. Hey, fair enough.
And I don't think I've ever like really publicly, maybe a tweet, but like never out loud like this. So I'm putting my Rebel Scum Texan reputation here on the line, which, I mean, that's not a whole lot. I might lose a few followers, but
it's all good.
It's not
all
a big
good.
deal. But anyway, I thought that was really cool, of course, to him say that and then get everything started. So, yeah.
Well, you mentioned MCU there. Somebody very instrumental to the MCU directed this bad boy, and that is Peyton Reed.
Yes, sir.
He's all over Ant-Man. And Peyton Reed, the first things that we get with him is how he reacted to the script. Now, it's revealed in this thing that in the script that he received, the Jedi was named as Plo Koon for secrecy purposes. Now, then he goes into further detail. He talks about how Jon, Favreau pulled him to the side to share that it was actually Luke. But it's hilarious that even on set, they show a shot of all the producers and everything there and still referencing Luke as Plo Koon. when they're even
Yes.
just talking about, Plo Koon needs to be standing here, Plo Koon needs to be standing there, he needs to do this and that, and just they were that to the point about keeping this thing a secret. Just mentioning the word Luke Skywalker on set probably would have resulted in an article online somewhere. So to the finest detail of just doing those things made this thing successful.
I had the same thought about Peyton Reed, and I definitely think that throwing in Plo Koon was such a cool thing.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I remember seeing an article somewhere saying Plo Koon's rumored to be in The Mandalorian, and I thought, there's no way. like he had a hardcore death in Episode 3, and I remember being in the theater for Revenge of the Sith in 2005 and seeing, and we'd gotten to know him for me, it was through the visual dictionary,
Mm-hmm.
and then through what was the then 2D animated Clone Wars.
Yep.
The Tarkovsky's Clone Wars, which, hey, we've talked about that before.
Yes, we have.
And that was a good episode. That was a fun time. But so when I remember seeing Plo Koon died, I actually vocally said, "Oh no, Plo Koon!" Like I remember thinking, "Oh no, Plo Koon died." So whenever I heard he was coming back, I thought, "There's no way." Like no, it's something. But here's the coolest thing I think about that: Peyton Reed being pulled to the side to talk about Plo Koon is reminiscent of Mark Hamill being pulled aside privately and told by George Lucas and Irvin Kershner, director of Empire, that Darth Vader is Luke's father. Spoiler alert. So, I mean, the fact that we have these two moments, and I think it's let me quote George Lucas for a second. It's kind of like poetry. It rhymes. It's like we watch how two different timelines of history have kind of almost merged in a way to where it's like, wow, Mark Hamill was pulled aside to be told that that Darth Vader is his father.
Mm-hmm.
Can you imagine if George Lucas's son was Luke Skywalker? But anyway, and then you have Peyton Reed being pulled aside to be told, hey, it's not Plo Koon, it's Luke Skywalker. And just, he had to go have a moment. And I think I said this on Saturday, but there's only a handful of people who have ever been given the privilege of directing Mark Hamill as Luke Skywalker. And now Peyton Reed gets to add himself to that list. And if I'm a director, you can't even begin to put that into words, how important Luke Skywalker is to cinema.
Absolutely.
He represents a certain type of character arc, and I realize that, but he embodies it so well. Mark Hamill does a fantastic job embodying that character arc.
Mm-hmm.
So all that to say, Peyton Reed being told what he was told, I thought was just absolutely and totally fantastic. And I don't know how much more. I mean, I can go on. I think I'm going to talk more and more, but I don't know how much I can say about that specifically.
Yeah. Okay. Well, the crew, as in Favreau, Filoni, and Peyton Reed, they continue to share kind of their mentality as far as how are we going to incorporate this massive legend of Luke Skywalker into the Mandalorian. And they made this statement that really, it's a simple statement to make, but man, did it make sense. I think it was Filoni specifically who said, the issue was we had to figure out a way of how we didn't have too little of Luke Skywalker, but we also didn't have too much. Because this is still The Mandalorian. This is Din Djarin and Grogu's story. And, for me, obviously, I don't know if I would ever feel like there's too much Luke Skywalker. That's why I'm not, one of their positions. That's why I'm not making decisions there at Lucasfilm.
Yes.
But they're 100% right that they couldn't have too little, they couldn't have too much, and they nailed that sweet spot. Like 1,000%, dead in the middle. I wasn't left wanting more. I wasn't left feeling Luke Skywalker heavy. I was left feeling, man, this was perfect.
Yeah, and I think that they took that into consideration. They wanted to make sure it felt like a good ending. And in a lot of ways, it's kind of like a really nice, like 5-course meal or 4-course meal or whatever. You have your appetizer and you have your main course or your salad and then your main course. Then you might have like the bread and all this other stuff, and then you have your dessert. And Luke Skywalker was the dessert. I mean, and it's the nice sprinkle on top of everything. It's the cherry on top is what it is. It's perfect. I don't know how else to say anything else to that, but
Yeah.
I agree with you 100%.
Okay, now let's dive into, how all of this came to be. Mark Hamill. John and Dave asked Mark to come on set to check out the show and to do some voiceover work. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. This droid,
Okay.
because it's a droid on Tatooine, wasn't this in season 1 where he voiced the droid, or was it in season 2 when he went to find Cobb Vanth?
No, it was in season 1 in the cantina.
Okay, that's
in
what
the
I thought.
Gunslinger episode, yeah.
That's what I thought. So at that point, that's when they revealed to him of their plans of incorporating Luke into season 2?
That's what I heard
Okay.
from this episode of Disney Gallery. That's
Right.
what I understood.
And so that was shocking to me because that means, for a long time, Mark Hamill knew that he was coming back. Well, but with that said, I think they started shooting season 2 of The Mandalorian while season 1 was being sent out. Like, as we were watching season 1, they were shooting season 2.
Yeah, and that's pretty normal for TV
Yeah.
sets. I mean, I remember I was a big Arrow fan when it was coming out, and I loved Arrow so much until the latter half of it because it kind of had a dip. But they were filming stuff as the new thing was coming out.
Sure.
And so I remember thinking a lot of things during all that, like, ooh, I wonder how this plays out. And I'm like, oh, they already know. And that's the way TV works. So it wasn't that surprising to me that Mark had known for a while
Mhm.
because he even said in the interview, guys, I know how to keep a secret. Like,
Yeah.
I've done it, like and this guy right here, hold on. I've referenced this before, but he kept this guy a secret in 1980
Mhm.
for, I think he said 14 months or something like that. I don't know, maybe
Yeah.
getting that number from somewhere else, but he knows what it's like to not talk. I think the worry that he so well put, that he being Mark Hamill, was that you got to worry about this crew that's on set. And to add to that, they said, oh yeah, half, if not more than half of our crew was off filming Robert Rodriguez's episode.
Mm.
They say that in the gallery
I
episode.
missed that part.
Like the whole, almost the whole crew was off shooting Robert Rodriguez's thing, and Mark Hamill had one day
Yeah.
on set to be Luke Skywalker. I mean, that I could have watched the whole thing from that perspective. Just have the camera follow Mark around for a day.
Yes. 100%.
And so the fact that now here's the one really cool thing with that. That means in one day, in 2 separate locations, Luke Skywalker and Boba Fett were simultaneously making their return in an era that just perfectly makes sense.
Yeah.
And I haven't heard anybody say that, but at the same time, I've also been waiting to listen or watch any other reactions to this because I wanted to make sure mine were mine and yours
Sure.
were yours. I've had the show notes for over a week. I haven't read your thoughts one time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you haven't read mine because I didn't send them to you.
Nope.
And so I was like, no, we're going to this thing blind. So to say that, take that into consideration is so important, I think, as fans, because we just don't get stuff like that all the time.
No, that's great. Just think 5 years ago. And to make that statement that Luke Skywalker, Mark Hamill's Luke Skywalker is shooting a scene while Tamara Morrison is somewhere else shooting a scene as Boba Fett. Like, are you kidding me? That's crazy.
It's a pipe dream. I mean, you have to be hallucinating to make that statement, And now we don't have to hallucinate. I mean, I could wake up and it could be a dream. I have no idea. And then all of this would be some really weird story. Like, wake up, baby. Hey, I had this really cool dream, but that's not what's happening. I mean, it's real. And the fact that that's going down and has gone down and maybe will continue to happen would be freaking awesome.
Absolutely.
So,
Well,
again, that's that kid in me, man.
Yeah.
That's that kid in me.
Yeah, well, the process, of them trying to convince Mark to come back. Mark Hamill, said, do I really want to do this? But John and Dave both kind of visited Mark. Or no, I think it was John and Peyton Reed. I don't know if Dave was there for the home visit. But they went to his house. They showed him the script, and he even got in the costume. They even brought the real deal as far as Grogu, the puppet. And, man, was that a cool shot. And at that moment, I think Mark Hamill was just like, yeah, I have to do this. And, of course, why not? Why would you pass that up?
Yeah, he even says, I'm the only one who's ever worked with the puppet. And I was like, okay, well, you're wrong because they had a puppet for Phantom Menace. But I mean, he probably doesn't. He probably has seen Phantom Menace a handful of times, maybe.
Right.
So I mean, it's not his movie, so it's kind of weird for. I feel like, oh, I'm not in this one, so I feel like if I was an actor, I would be that way, which is so rude. I feel like, oh, I'm not in this one, I don't want to watch it. Like, but maybe he's that way. I don't know. He looks like a nice guy. I could be way off, but
Sure.
anyway, I think that that's really a cool thing. Of course, to bring the puppet out to his house. It's like, like for real, can you imagine having this guy right here, just there?
That'd be pretty wild.
I don't know what I would do. Like, I don't mean the HasLab ones or the almost real looking ones. I mean like the puppet.
Right.
Or as Bryce Dallas Howard kept referring to him as Baby. Isn't Baby so cool? Baby so cool. Like,
yeah.
Oh man. But I'm with you. I think the fact that they went to him and Mark was willing to even have a conversation about it.
Yeah.
It just speaks volumes to his love, I think, for the character of Luke Skywalker.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, the next thing that I have that really stuck out to me was they showed a shot of just Kathleen Kennedy being on set, as well as the man beside her, George Lucas. And we've already kind of talked about Kathleen Kennedy, so there isn't really much else to add there. But it is cool to see George Lucas continually show up on set. I believe he was there for season 1 at some point to see them shooting that season, as well as now it appears season 2.
Yeah, I believe whenever he sold Lucasfilm, it was a part of the contract for him to have some sort of not like his hand in it, but like he wanted certain things run by him. And I would be willing to bet that Grogu was one of those things run by him, because when he shows up and Jon Favreau's like, here, you want to hold it? And he's like, we've all seen the blurry picture of George Lucas holding it.
Yeah.
And you kind of think, wow, this is like, it kind of feels like grandpa and grandson a little bit. And that's kind of what it looks like to me anyway. So him being there is such a big deal, in that he kind of, in one way or another, has given his seal of approval, almost kind of like he's the godfather and you still have to kiss the ring. And the family hasn't been turned over all the way yet. So I think that's important. I think it's a really important thing that he's been around for some of it.
I think anytime George shows up, for me, that means a lot. I don't know him. I obviously I don't know him, but what I was trying to say is I don't know, how mentally he's taking all of this. But regardless, him showing up on set and showing support for the franchise as it continues to grow means a lot to me. And I wish he had somehow been there on the day that Mark Hamill was shooting the Luke Skywalker stuff, because that would have been like just pure gold. What we got was pure gold, but like I'm talking pure gold.
Oh, I know. And there's not much that could make that better aside from some reason Harrison Ford's there too. Like, it's the only thing that makes it better.
Yeah.
Or if the actual ghost of Alec Guinness shows up, it just doesn't get a whole lot cooler than him being there. Of course, I bet somebody tried to get him there, and it just, maybe the schedule didn't line up, but I certainly would have liked to have seen him there that day, but having George Lucas there in the mix with all that may have been a little hectic, but that's the only thing that could have made that better.
Sure.
I mean, it's the only thing that could have made that better.
Yeah. Well,
and
sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there. I was just going to mention, let's discuss maybe the technology that they had to use in order to make this event happen. We've kind of talked about how Mark got pulled in, but let's actually dive into what made this specific event happen. What we got going in the live chat.
Just before that, I wanted to say this. I think it's my sister jumped into the live chat, and she said, it's Savannah Foster, by the way. She says, everyone to George Lucas, you can do whatever you want forever. Like, and that's the truth. He can do whatever you want forever. Like, he can show up in his
except make his own sequel trilogy.
Oh, why'd you have to say that? Why did you have to say that? We were having such a good night, Caleb.
Oops.
No, you are correct. But he also was on set for the season finale of Game of Thrones, and we saw how that turned out. So, gotcha. Anyway,
that's true.
I'll throw that in there. I'll get my one up.
Yeah,
there. But anyway,
he was there to specifically have a conversation with Benioff and Weiss. The people behind Game of Thrones
Yes.
that were on deck to make Star Wars projects, and then they bailed. So yeah, we're really going dark now. I'm angry. I'm getting red. I'm angry.
Oh, that's funny. Oh, that's the first time I've heard anybody say that. That's fantastic. Yeah, but no, truly though, George Lucas could show up in his dad Nikes and his dad jeans and his flannel shirts and his Starbucks cup, and he can do whatever he wants. I don't care.
Yeah.
You know, except what we've already mentioned, which makes me sad.
Anyway,
So-
let's keep the vibes going. So listen, the technology that was needed. I'm just gonna kind of group these next few things together, and then I'll pass it on to you, DJ, and let you kind of talk about those main points that I pull out. I was listening to Favreau. He was sharing all the 3 different methods behind bringing specifically the face to life for Luke Skywalker. I know deep fake was one of those that he mentioned, but then I kind of got lost there for a moment. I probably need to go back and watch that part specifically. And then they talked about the young stand-in actor, and I forgot his name. Do you remember his name?
I think I wrote it down somewhere.
Okay. Well, while you're
But
pulling that up,
don't
Mark
wait
Hamill,
on me.
Yeah, Mark Hamill and that young stand-in, I thought it was really cool that they were working together as far as, the movements, where to be, what to do, how to look. I thought that was really cool. And then I was blown away with this new egg technology where there were like these thousands and thousands of just mini LEDs all over the place to try to recreate any kind of lighting they wanted to. They showed like fire, bright light, low light. It was really cool that they can do that. Again, we've already kind of talked about this. They had one day to use the egg and one day with Mark. So all of that magic was produced in one day. And again, that is mind-blowing. That was really the big technology that they used to pull this incredible moment off.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, honestly, all the things we've talked about up to now, I didn't have written down.
Mm-hmm.
All of my focus is mostly in my notes about the technological aspects of
Sweet.
of it, because I just was so thrilled by what we were watching. And so, I mean, like I said, I was just so excited about the technological breakdown that Favreau gave in order to obtain the performance we ended up having in Mandalorian from Mark Hamill, Luke Skywalker. And I don't know where that name is. I thought I wrote it down, but you know what? If you want to find out, just go look at the cast list, and then you can let us know all that kind of good stuff.
He looks very similar. He does. Good casting.
And they did talk about that. They said that we had to put out a casting call for someone that looked like Mark Hamill without ever saying the name Mark Hamill.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how you do that.
How do you do that? No clue.
Like, I don't even. We need about a 5'7" individual with blonde hair. Like, how do you do that? Like, that's anybody, I mean, and that must have been a process in and of itself. I know that there were something like 3,000 kids who read for the role of Anakin Skywalker in episode 1. So like, imagine what they had to go through not saying the name Luke Skywalker. It just blows my mind.
Crazy.
But back to the technology aspects, I like the deep fake conversation.
Yes, that was cool. That was really cool.
And I thought that the deep fake things they did talk about were very convincing in the earliest stages. When you watch it looked like a Cheez-It is what it looked like.
Mm-hmm.
It looked like a cheese cracker with Mark Hamill's face on it. And so while it's just sitting there doing this, and they kept matching it over the face of the actor, I thought that looks really convincing, but they weren't satisfied.
Yeah.
And they're the professionals. I'm not going to get in the way of that.
Sure.
But I thought it looked good. Man, I'll tell you this though, sidebar, Landis Fields was working on doing the face over. I don't even know what you would call that.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how new he is to Lucasfilm or ILM, but he's over there with an ILM VFX hat on. How do I get my hands on one of those ILM VFX hats?
Probably got to work there.
You probably do. It's hard to find Lucasfilm merch, man. It is. I've looked because I want a Lucasfilm shirt really bad. But it's one of those things where I feel like it'd be nice to just kind of have it, even like Dave Filoni, you mentioned this. He had his Mudhorn signet on his big Patagonia jacket.
So cool.
I mean, that alone is awesome.
Yeah.
But anyway, that was a little sidebar. There was one really cool thing where we were talking about Mark Hamill and him being de-aged and all this fun stuff. There was a clip of him back on the set of A New Hope in 1977 or 76, I guess, because that's when it was being filmed. He says this exactly. You have to have a lot of trust in all the technicians that they're going to make you look all right. That's a quote that it's a little out of context. Let's be fair, but at the same time, it's almost prophetic for him to say you have to have trust in the technicians to make sure that everything looks good. He basically saying the same things as he's now Luke Skywalker again in 2019, I guess, when this was filmed, or 2020, probably 2020, because I know I saw masks being worn in the background by different crew members and whatnot. So, the fact that they went through that and we have this little random quote I thought was awesome. Last thing on the de-aging process for me, and then I'll toss it back to you. And,
Okay.
or unless you want to talk more about the egg and the volume, because I have a few thoughts on that.
No,
But
that's fine. Yeah.
the de-aging process they used in Mandalorian was the right call, I think, ultimately, instead of the deep fake. I think it was good because they were able to pull from Mark's previous performances in a really cool way, in a great way, and then intertwine that with the other performer playing Luke, or performers, I should say, because there was a stuntman, doing a lot of the robot chopping, which
Yeah.
that was the part I was pretending to be whenever I first saw it. I mean, the idea of chopping down those things was really cool. So anyway, and then you get to the volume and the egg. To me, the egg looked like a mini volume. It was like a miniaturized volume. And this is something that I feel like has been around for a long time. I mentioned I'm a behind the scenes junkie. So we're going to go back in time about 15 years to Revenge of the Sith. The documentary that they did for the making of the Revenge of the Sith was called Within a Minute. And by the way, it's on YouTube. You can go watch it. It's not hard to find. You just type in Revenge of the Sith Within a Minute. You got it. But they did something very similar to this back then with Gentle Giant Studios, who I know you've had to have heard of Gentle Giant Studios by now. But they did this. They were doing things like this in 2004 when they were filming Revenge of the Sith. And what they were doing was they were taking digital scans of the actors' faces and putting them on the stunt performers in real time while they were filming in 2004 and 2005. Unheard of then. And it just shows that this egg thing, this is we should call it Suga, I feel like. Just from now on, just Suga, and go from there. Suga. That was hilarious. They're like the minions of Star Wars now.
Absolutely.
It's fantastic. But
Well, the minions are, straight up rip-off of Jawas.
They are. You know what? You're right. That's the new headcanon from now on. But anyway, they put these 3D scans on those actors' faces back then. We're doing it now. And the egg is taking these principles that have been around for a long time, going into 2 decades now, and bringing them to an advanced state that was, really hard to come by and almost unheard of 10 years ago. Like, we had things like this, but it wasn't this. It wasn't, let's project the fire, not real fire, but project it onto his face so we get the lighting and all these different things. I think that is just absolutely amazing. And so, I mean, that's kind of my thoughts as far as the technical sides of things go. I'm curious to see if you have anything else to say on any of the tech sides of things.
No, I just thought it was super cool. And just how remarkable it is that all of that played out perfectly still blows my mind. And this idea, and John definitely talks about this later, as far as, how dangerous yet how beautiful this technology really is. Because that means we can continue to get these kind of cool moments with legacy type of characters, but there is a big responsibility that these people have as far as using this technology appropriately, and I think Favreau summed that up pretty great. So that's really all I wanted to add to that as far as the technology aspect.
I'm glad you did, because I had totally forgotten about that. I mean, we very easily could go off the deep end. And there were certain times in film up to now that I feel like was important to do that. The first big one was Paul Walker's death in the Fast and Furious franchise. And I think that was important. And everybody on the set, all the people involved with that one were like, we need to have Paul in this one. And then the only other time I ever felt like the morality side of it was called into question was when they brought Tarkin back,
Mm.
but they made sure to go to Peter Cushing's estate to make
Right.
sure that was okay. And I love that, like you said, I'm so glad you brought it up because I did 100% forget about that. That Jon Favreau was like, we have to be careful,
Mhm.
and it could get out of hand one day. I hope it doesn't, because we use it sparingly and we use it when it's necessary. I'll
Sure.
even use that lightly. And I agree with you on that for sure.
Okay, sweet. Now, this next thing, for some reason, caused controversy online. This idea of when, Dave mentions Ahsoka, and Ahsoka
Oh,
being,
gosh.
the more well-trained Jedi compared to Luke. And that's 100% on the money. I don't know why there was pushback to this. I still think that it would be an incredible moment to see Ahsoka meet Luke Skywalker and train him and show him all of these
100%.
different things and tell him all of these stories that she has with his father. I mean, talk about emotions. That would be a great moment, and I do think that Ahsoka is the superior Jedi. I genuinely do feel that. Now, I'm not talking character here. I still love the character of Luke Skywalker more than I like the character of Ahsoka, but Ahsoka is, in this time, she is well more trained, well more seasoned than Luke Skywalker. I don't know why this was taken controversial by some fans, because, I mean, it's just fact.
It 100% is. I mean, it just, like, I'm with you. It does not make sense. I've actually rolled my eyes when you brought it up. I mean, not that you brought it up. I'm rolling my eyes at the fact that I know. It's so ridiculous. I sound like Monica from Friends. I know. But it is what it is. It is by far one of the most ridiculous things we could have argued about. And I saw it on TikTok. I saw it on Twitter. I saw it on Instagram. Thank God I didn't see it on Facebook. It'll be there next week, though. It'll be there 2 weeks late, as all things on Facebook are. But it blew my mind that we were talking about this. And I even heard one person break this down. Okay, so I lied. I saw a little bit of someone's opinion about this, but I agreed with the opinion because they flat out say, and my brother Gavin's in the chat, and he says, Caleb, you're his new favorite person for saying that Ahsoka is 100% where he loves Ahsoka.
Okay.
And when I say he loves Ahsoka, he has a small, and I'm kind of outing him a little bit. I hope he doesn't mind, but he has a small little Ahsoka shrine in his, or he's got the novel, he's got the Funko Pops, he has one of her lightsabers. He loves Ahsoka.
Dude, I'm
and
jealous.
Honestly,
I wish I had
awesome.
that.
It's a dope little setup. Gavin, put it in Discord so Caleb can see it.
Yeah, dude, hit me up. If you don't want to put it in the Major Mando Talk thread, just DM it to me, because I would love to see it.
Yes, it's a great little deal he has in there. I try to mess with him sometimes. I'll go in there and he still has the Funko Pops in the box. I'll turn the box upside down and mess with them. But it's this little game I play. But anyway, little peek into my life. But and it's fun having younger siblings because you can kind of mess with them a little bit. I'm sure you have, what that's a little bit like. But anyway, he says not one bit. I did not out him. Fantastic. So, Ahsoka is 100% more powerful than Luke Skywalker is at this current point in Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
She was trained by Yoda, by Plo Koon. She had run-ins with Mace Windu. Okay, we had Kit Fisto somewhere in the mix a few times. Anakin freaking Skywalker. Not to mention, she spent time with both Padme Amidala, Duchess Satine Kryze. She freaking led troops into battle across all of the Clone Wars. And by the way, she's a teenager the whole time. When Luke was 19 years old, he was still complaining about moisture farming.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have to put this into perspective.
Let's
She's a kid.
let's not forget as well that Ahsoka bested Darth Maul.
And I guarantee you now, Luke Skywalker, I think, especially after seeing Mandalorian, I think he could hold his own against Darth Maul.
Yeah. I think so too.
But this is so far down the line in his life. Luke's in his 20s, probably his 30s by now. When Ahsoka was doing that, she's like, what, 22, 23? She's in the prime of her. Well, if she's a humanoid, I'm not sure what kind of, I know she's Togruta, so I don't know how that really plays out. But all I'm saying is, and you're in your prime of your life, and you're taking on who is essentially an old man, but still, Darth Maul was spry. Like he knew what he was doing. He still had it where it counted. Ahsoka did best him. And Luke Skywalker at that age and with minimal training, if we saw Empire Strikes Back Luke Skywalker fight Darth Maul, even from episode 1, and even in Clone Wars or Rebels, no way. There's no way he wins that fight. Unless, the writers say otherwise, which
Sure.
they are ultimately, the people who have the say. But
Yeah.
I just don't see how Ahsoka Tano isn't more powerful than Luke. Now, I know by saying these things, we're just adding fuel to that fire. But at the same time, like, look, you're just going to have that opinion, and that's your opinion. You can keep your opinion. That's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Opinions are like butts. Everybody's got one and they all stink. I mean, it is what it is.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. I had a professor in college say that to us once, and that was at a Bible college. So
Nice.
Believe it or not, it's good times. But all that to say, listen, Luke Skywalker's awesome. I love Luke Skywalker.
Yes.
I think he is, by the time we get to Last Jedi, he is the most powerful Jedi in existence. And I'm willing to believe that there are still some Jedi running around out there, still haven't been hunted down or have trained other Jedi, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Because at that point, it's 50 years later. So, I mean, we see what happens within 50 years time. We get a baby Yoda.
Mm-hmm.
So all that to say, we could get this, but I still think he is the most powerful Jedi in the universe by Last Jedi.
Yeah.
But he is not as skilled as Ahsoka.
Agreed.
He just isn't. And he has, I think, a little ways to go. And I, like you even said, having them meet up would be fantastic. I think the best place to see them would be in the Ahsoka series.
Yeah.
At least briefly, and maybe we probably don't get that. I think we may have seen our last Luke Skywalker. Unfortunately, that's where I feel this is gone.
Yeah.
I don't know how we get back Grogu, if we ever do get back Grogu, but I don't know. I'm with you on the Ahsoka thing. 100%
Okay.
agree.
All right.
Talked about it too much, probably.
No. I was excited to kind of hear your take on that, and I'm glad that we are in agreement. Now, moving along, the next thing that I kind of made note of as I was watching this was something we already alluded to at the beginning, how all of these things played perfectly. Dave and John talking about, how the X-Wing showing up. Then next it was a hooded figure. Then next it was the green lightsaber, the fighting style, the face reveal. And then, yes, that lightsaber.
I had to bring it back.
Then, specifically, Favreau mentions the music. Now, I just wanted to mention that Favreau states that this was the first time they used a John Williams score in The Mandalorian at all in the first 2 seasons. Now, first of all, that's awesome. I always love hearing John Williams music pop up. But secondly, I didn't notice that. I did not notice that was the one and only time that we heard an original piece show up in The Mandalorian. And I just wanted to say that because of that, I think Ludwig, I don't know how to say his last name, Göransson or something along those lines.
I don't know.
The guy that's been scoring The Mandalorian, I think that speaks to how good he's doing. If that's the first time that I noticed that's the only time that John Williams actually shows up.
Well, not to burst your bubble, but it wasn't.
It wasn't.
In Ahsoka's episode, The Jedi, you hear Yoda's theme play. And so it's very briefly, she
so Favreau
mentions
misspoke.
Yoda. He did.
Okay.
And as soon as I heard that, I was like, well, that's not right, because Yoda's theme plays in the Ahsoka episode when she mentions Yoda. And
Oh, yeah, you're right. I remember that
it's
now.
just a little like reprise kind of like touch thing.
Mm-hmm.
And on top of that, Ahsoka's theme isn't an original Ludwig song. That was something created by the Kiner brothers.
Right.
And so he misspoke twice, actually.
Well,
Now-
I think he only mentioned Williams specifically.
But Yoda's theme is still Williams.
Right. No, I'm
theme.
talking about the
Yeah.
Ahsoka one.
Okay, yeah. So then I'll give them that one. But the Kiner brothers have their music in it with Ahsoka, and you have John Williams' music in it with Ahsoka. But then, of course, you do get that main Star Wars kind of do kind of thing,
Mhm.
and that is what I think he was really trying to get at.
Sure. Like
Because-
the majorly emotional one that you
Yes.
typically hear.
Like the most emotional, like it brings back those feelings of watching Luke train with Yoda and watching him learn about the Force from Obi-Wan and watching him defeat Vader in Palpatine. Well, he didn't really defeat Palpatine, but you know, in Return of the Jedi. So I mean, you watching these things, yes, that's what that song reminds you of. So I get where he was going with it.
Sure.
But he didn't say it correctly.
Yeah,
and,
no, that's a good call. I didn't even notice that. I think you're right. I still think, you know, Ludwig, just to say my point, I still think Ludwig is doing phenomenal.
No, he's killing it. I mean, here's the thing. I've never shared this with you before. I'm going to share it with everybody now. When I get ready to record and get all my stuff set up and I get going, before we jump in, the Zoom call, I am listening to Star Wars music, and I listen to the Mandalorian theme almost every time.
There you go.
I want to put myself in the right frame of mind. Like even last week before we attempted to do this one with Zach, my wife was like, "Hey, do you want to watch What If before you go record?" And I said, "No, I want to be in Star Wars mode." and she was like, "Okay," she gets it. She gets me. So she knows what I mean by that. So hearing that, the music for me really puts me in a place where I'm like, let's talk Star Wars. And I did that today. I did that. I listened to the throne room scene music from A New Hope today. So I realize I'm now putting out how nerdy I truly am, but no, I don't care.
No, you got to do what you got to do. You got to do what you got to do to get in the zone.
It pumps me up, man.
Yeah.
I mean, it pumps me up. It gets me ready. That's my pregame music, man. That's my sitting on the bus silent. That's what that
Poker
is.
face. Let's go.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Next thing that I wanted to mention, Luke's voice. You know, we talked about for a while, you know, did Mark Hamill, you know, record new lines and all of these different things, but it's revealed that it was completely synthesized using software. Apparently there's basically like this program where they can input, you know, Mark's young voice, and it can generate these new lines of dialogue that they need to be said to match his voice. I was taken back by that. I didn't know that was a thing, but it worked. And again, it's one of those things that Favreau mentions. It could be dangerous. It can be really dangerous because next thing you know, if that was to get in the hands of just for example, not to say that, you know, I'm thinking about doing this. If that was to come into the hands of a podcaster, you could almost convince your listeners that Mark Hamill or Harrison Ford or whoever is your co-host on a Star Wars podcast.
Yeah. I think you make a good point that, like, yeah, it'd be difficult, I think.
Sure.
Maybe not for some. For me, it sounds like the hardest thing in the world to try to do, but you're right. And I didn't know it was a thing either, because I was sitting there watching it. I think I was like eating lunch or something, and I had time, and I was watching it, and I was like, I think my jaw hit the floor. I mean, I had to like physically pick my jaw up and put my beard back into place and hope that, you know, my tongue didn't fall out in the process, because I was just so enamored with the idea, like, wait a second, we can take old radio specials now.
Yeah.
And just make this ridiculous, like, I don't even know what it is. It's like a best of playlist of lines, and like, all right, throw them all in there. And I was up to this point convinced that it was Mark Hamill recording in a booth, and then they're like, all right, we'll fix it, you know, later or something. But like, that's not at all what happened. Right. It's just a total other ball game.
That's crazy.
It blows my mind to even think about it now. And whatever software they're using, I think they need to keep that to themselves.
Yes, they do.
Because
they do.
Because we bring up the moral code, I suppose, with that, and then doing the deepfake stuff. And the deepfake stuff is cool, you know, but like Favreau said, we have to be careful with this. They've been giving a great deal of power, and we know what Uncle Ben said: with great power comes great responsibility. And that applies in so many areas of life that I think that we sometimes, you know, don't take it into consideration.
Agreed.
But I still think it's cool.
Yeah, it was really cool.
I think it's really cool.
They use the technology appropriately, and as long as they continue to do that,
yes,
I'm here for it. Next thing, 30 minutes in to this episode, the first mention of R2-D2 occurs. Now, I'm going to be completely honest here. I forgot he was there as we were watching this Disney Gallery thing.
Me too.
We were talking about Mark Hamill. We were talking about Luke Skywalker. As I was watching it, I was like completely shocked when I was like, oh yeah, R2D2 is there, and we're just now
Yes.
talking about him. For some reason, I just completely forgot that he was even in that episode there for a while. But then, John starts talking about how that was his favorite character as a kid. And then Dave even talks about how Favreau got emotional, not when Mark Hamill was there, but when R2D2 starts rolling in. And that was really cool to see, kind of, again, seeing that Favreau is one of us. So what did you think of R2, Favreau's take on it, and just R2 being there? What did you think?
So I had lunch with my parents this last week, and my dad and my mom are flea market people, and they're estate sale hunters and
There you
things
go.
like that. And so my dad, everywhere he goes, he's always kind of on the hunt for old school Star Wars action figures, and he got a hold of a 1977 R2D2 action
wow.
figure in fantastic condition. I mean, it looked incredible.
Mm-hmm.
And since it looked so good, I was like, wow, this is cool. So we're looking at it at lunch, just kind of, I'm playing with it. And then I remembered what Favreau said about how much he loved R2D2. And I just was like, wow, I think that it is so cool that we have this connection to so many people across the Star Wars fandom verse, if you will. And Favreau mentioning that he loved R2D2 so much that he had to take a second. He had to take a second. Shout out to the guy who jumped in the wrong screen. Come back.
No, yeah, for real. So the Beef Train shows up. I don't know who Jonathan Chong is. I feel like we're getting scammed here. But regardless, if you're new here, if you didn't mean to be here, go ahead and subscribe while you're here.
Yeah, might as well. I mean, you're already here, and I hope Beef Train implies you have barbecue or tacos. Feel free to send me some tacos, always. Like, two things make me happy in this life, if not anything else, is Star Wars and tacos. I love tacos. Anyway. So anyway, thanks Beef Train for showing up.
Me
and
off,
then
man. I'm back.
We had to mention
hold
it.
Off, I'm trying to hold
I
off
know.
laughter
I've been sitting
while
here
you're
trying
talking
to-
about the emotional aspect
know.
of R2D2 showing up. Oh my goodness, that's hilarious.
Oh,
Hey, we appreciate it again, Beef Train. If you are not subscribed, click that subscribe button, man.
Please. And then explain to us who Jonathan Chong is. I hope he has tacos. Anyway, let's try to get back on with this emotional R2D2 talk. So for me, seeing R2D2, seeing him was a shock, even though I knew he was there, because watching the behind the scenes and then like not remembering he was going to be there, I was like, oh shoot, like that's R2D2. Now here's one thing I do want to mention about R2D2. When Mark Hamill wasn't on set and they had the stand-in,
Mm-hmm.
they had an R2 unit there, but it was green.
Yes, I noticed that as well.
I thought that is the coolest thing. And I kind of suspect that was a note from Dave Filoni. I don't know if I'm right about this, but when Plo Koon is flying his Jedi Starfighter in Clone Wars, there's a really good chance his R2 unit is painted green.
That's what I was literally Googling. I was looking up Plo Koon R2 unit.
We are sometimes
Synced.
so in sync. We said the word sync in sync just now. That's how in sync we are.
Hey,
Not the boy band.
no, I can't find what that R2 unit looks like. But it's possible. Either way, it's a good way to throw people off. Just like Beef Train threw us off.
Beef Train is the Plo Koon of this episode of Mando Talk. Oh, he's back. Is he back?
I don't think
He
so.
is back.
Is he back?
He jumped in the comments. Jonathan Chong is a Disney mod who's banned him from so many of those Disney nerd celebration streams. All right, guy, I'm sorry. You're not banned here, so whatever.
Yeah, just again, hit the subscribe button. But anyway.
Just at least do us that. Yeah.
Look,
we talk about a lot of good stuff around here.
We do. Now, let's wrap it up. We're getting to the end of the special here, and I just wanted to talk about the emotions. John gets emotional about R2. Grogu being this generation's R2-D2 is kind of the line that's thrown out there, and man, is that fact. I see Grogu, I see Baby Yoda everywhere that I go. I have always complained about Star Wars, like, accessibility, like merch and toys and collectibles, but Grogu at least is everywhere. You got T-shirts, blankets, and you
Yeah.
name it. Any kid item has Grogu on it at this point, and
Dude,
I'm loving that.
I am wearing Grogu socks right now.
There you go. That's hey,
I see exactly. He's right here. I mean,
Grogu. This is
Grogu all day.
I think this T-shirt is actually concept art. I don't think this was from the show shot.
I have a hoodie that I bought. I got it like $30 off, so I was stoked. But it's that same concept piece, just no purple in the background. But anyway, I have that on a hoodie as well. So yeah, that is concept art.
Okay,
but
sweet.
Yeah, you're right. He's everywhere. You can't escape him. And I've said this before. He's on baby on board stickers on mom's cars.
Right.
I mean, he's just everywhere, and I don't know whether or not to take that seriously. Is it just you're making a Mandalorian joke, or is there actually a baby in the car?
Yeah.
I have no idea, but that's how big he is. He is this generation's R2-D2 100%.
Yeah. And I'm here for it. I love it. Mark then began speaking on the emotional fan base reactions. I think it was Favreau that sent him a video of like a collage of all the reactions, and that was really cool. And then, we've talked about this at Mando Talk. We have come to this realization well before we watched Disney Gallery, The Mandalorian. Favreau talks about how essentially the Star Wars franchise is all about family. And we specifically, I know here at Mando Talk, have mentioned that before. It is a family event. You pass it on to your kids will pass it on to their kids, and so on. And that is so powerful, and that is why, for me, Star Wars will always be king, because of just how generational it is. And it's just super cool. I could talk about just the family aspect of Star Wars all day long. But what did you think about, so let's wrap this up. What did you think about the emotions there at the end, and just overall your thoughts, maybe if we missed some things on Disney Gallery, this recent episode?
Well, I think altogether Disney Gallery in and of itself is a special treat, but this one really was something big. From Mark Hamill to R2-D2 to VFX shots. I said this in our Discord, and I want to say it here too. This is one of the most important behind the scenes documentaries ever made, period. I watch a lot of behind the scenes documentaries. Almost every movie I've ever seen, if it has behind the scenes or making of, I watch it.
Wow.
Because I want to know what they did and how they did it. I mean, I wanted to be a filmmaker. I mean, I went to college for broadcasting for a couple of years. And I even had the opportunity to go to USC, where George Lucas went to film school. I wanted to go to USC and be in California, but plans change.
Sure.
And that's where life went for me. But I was dedicated to this. So I've seen, for almost every movie I've ever rented or had the DVD for, or the Blu-ray, I've watched the behind the scenes. And so this is by far, and I may be a little bit biased because it is Luke Skywalker at the end of the day, but I still think that this is one of the most important behind the scenes documentaries ever made. And that alone, I feel like it is enough for me to say, go check this out.
Yeah.
And within Favreau's final words, they played the Boba Fett theme music from
I
The
noticed
Mandalorian.
that too.
Were you going to mention it?
No. I'm glad you mentioned it though.
Because Favreau's talking about, and we're going to get to see how we get to continue to pass down these things from generation to generation. And you hear that music rev up. And I was like, are we getting a teaser? Are we getting a teaser?
Yes.
I was so stoked. And then, of course, we didn't get a teaser. I was sad.
I'll be honest. It almost feels like that was produced to have something attached to it there at the end.
I think you're right.
It really did. And maybe they just decided not to. But I really do think it was produced that way to keep that option there.
I'll blame Spider-Man.
Because I'm glad you brought that up. We hear that music like as the credits begin, basically. Like it,
and I really thought it was going to be like, I really thought they were going to hit us with it, and they didn't. And I blame Spider-Man. I will blame Spider-Man for this, because full well Lucasfilm and Marvel were talking like, hey, you can't put that in there. Well, why not? Well, we're dropping the Spider-Man trailer next week, so you can't do that. They're just over there chanting that all the way. And
Sure.
I was just perturbed. I was so disheartened, and I was
Yeah.
like, "We're gonna get it. We're gonna get."
Because
Oh,
my like
right.
I started, I was getting up. I was like, oh, here we go,
Yeah,
it's happening.
me too.
And then it's just credits kept going. But hey,
And then I fast forwarded to the end of the credits. Like, are they gonna
I
do
did
that?
too.
They did.
I
They
did
didn't
too.
do that.
But it's okay. I think when we see it, we'll be glad that we waited, maybe, because
Yeah.
we get to spread out the joy. We got Disney Gallery, then we're getting Visions next, and then I think it'll be time for us to get a Book of Boba Fett trailer. But what we'll do here, what I want to now do, is pass this on to you. What did you, our listener, our viewer, think of Disney Gallery, The Mandalorian, and specifically Mark Hamill showing back up as Luke Skywalker? Because my goodness gracious, it was emotional. This played back at the emotions. DJ's just going ham with that lightsaber.
Listen, man. You just don't understand. You should have been a fly on the wall in my home when that happened. Anyway, yes, you're right. We do want to know. I almost said we do know. We do want to know what you have to say about this. Tell us in the comments, tweet us, join Discord, and talk with us about this stuff, because listen, you're not alone.
Yeah.
We want to talk about this stuff because we care about it. We know you care about it.
Absolutely. Well, listen, we will get out of here. We've spent a ton of time talking Star Wars, and again, it's one of those moments where it doesn't feel like it's been as long as it actually has been, because we just lose ourselves talking about Star Wars. But we can't wait to talk Star Wars again on next week's episode of Mando Talk, live on Thursdays. We do it every Thursday night live at 8:30 p.m. Central Time, as well as a new show, Geekverse Reactions, where we talk about just anything in the Geekverse. Marvel, DC, Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones, anything really, Indiana Jones, whatever. And we do that Tuesdays at 8:30 p.m. Central Time. So come join us. Again, click the subscribe button on YouTube if you have not. And that's all we have, folks. So DJ, final words before we get out of here.
Get yourself some tacos and tell your mama you love her.
And as always, we have spoken.